We created something super simple. We jump into water wherever we go. Ocean waves, mountain lakes, hotel pools, we've jumped, dived, and dunked all across this country. We've been to all 50 states, and we're going worldwide soon. It's our thing now. No matter what, we take the plunge, and we use excessive amounts of peer pressure, especially when it's cold. You don't need something fancy. Start with something small and just be consistent. That magic happens when you repeat it. It becomes a part of your story. So here's your moment. Build a tradition today. Start something small and be consistent. Make something that will last for generations and become something that is part of your family. Have you ever wanted to build a tradition? In my family, we created something super simple. We jump into water wherever we go. Ocean waves, mountain lakes, hotel pools, we've jumped, dived, and dunked all across this country. We've been to all 50 states, and we're going worldwide soon. It's our thing now. No matter what, we take the plunge. Start with something small and just be consistent. That magic happens when you repeat it. It becomes a part of your story. So here's your moment. Build a tradition today. Start something small and be consistent. Make something that will last for generations and become something that is part of your family. Have you ever wanted to build a tradition? In my family, we created something super simple. We jump into water wherever we go. Ocean waves, mountain lakes, hotel pools, we've jumped, dived, and dunked all across this country. We've been to all 50 states, and we're going worldwide soon. It's our thing now. No matter what, we take the plunge, and we use excessive amounts of peer pressure, especially when it's cold. You don't need something fancy. Start with something small and just be consistent. The magic happens when you repeat it. It becomes a part of your story. So here's your moment. Build a tradition today. Start something small and be consistent. Make something that will last for generations and become something that is part of your family. When you this country. We've been to all 50 states, and we're going worldwide soon. It's our thing now. No matter what, we take the plunge, and we use excessive amounts of peer pressure, especially when it's cold. You don't need something fancy. Start with something small and just be consistent. That magic happens when you repeat it. It becomes a part of your story. So here's your moment. Build a tradition today. Start something small and be consistent. Make something that will last for generations and become something that is part of your family. Hello, everybody. Hi, Quest. How are you doing today? Man, I've been over here fighting. I upgraded my internet on Spectrum to 2 gigabytes up and down, 2 gigabytes a second. And on paper, I tested it and I got up to, like 300 megabytes up right when they did it. I was like, oh, great, that's good enough for streaming. But right at 7 p.m., right when I'm going live, my upload speed dropped to 8 megabytes up. And so my stream settings uh, were just dropping frames nonstop. So I basically was not going to be able to stream until I lowered my bit rate down to what is actually available. So starting tomorrow, I'll just see what other unit. I'll get Starlink if I have to. Starlink's basically the same price of what I just upgraded to. So okay, if you can't actually do it for me, I'll just go with the alternative. But welcome to Liberty Tonight. I'm your host, Brian Piotr. I am wearing my Afuera shirt. I have ditched my green screen. I have in my background our Afuera shoes. You can see my patent, which is in diffusion bonding of aluminum panels, and my Eagle Scout, which I'm super, super proud of. Tonight, I'm going to go play by play with questions and people who are on here to talk to them and ask, hey, what do you need to know for the logistics of exactly how do you sell your house, travel for a year without an address, and then how do you end the trip? Because back in 2023, my family and I, so here's the beginning of the story. My wife and I were driving across the state of Kansas. Could have been, you know, Missouri or something at the time, but we were driving to go see family in Indiana from Colorado, and we were talking about what we thought was going to happen with the housing market, and we needed a bigger house because baby number 4 was on the way. We thought, what do we do? Because in Colorado we can't actually afford a bigger house. We have a nice house, and we completely redid it and flipped it, and it was great. And now I'm working from home, and baby number 4 is on the way, and it's feeling a little cramped. What if we sell our house and we just travel? Because since I had been working remote, we had done this several times where we went someplace for a week or two, and I worked at least to go visit friends or something. And I realized, and we're like, well, we might not always work remote. I might not always have this job. This might be a once in a lifetime opportunity. So we did it. So in January 2023, my wife's 6 months pregnant. Um, we put our home up for sale. We get home from Christmas. We put our home up for sale and uh, sell the house. While it's closing, we find a Airbnb that we could stay in for 3 months to have the baby in, which we had at home in an Airbnb. We put all of our stuff that we wanted to keep in a storage unit, donated or threw away or sold everything else, and hopped on the road. So welcome. I see so many people are in the chat, and I'm resetting up my room so I can actually look this way and actually see the chat this time. Weston here, relaxing my groin. I only had first class, but consider myself as a life scout. Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, Boy Scouting is awesome. Side tangent is my father and his 2 brothers, both my uncles, they were all Eagle Scouts. I was an Eagle Scout. My wife's father and his 3 brothers, there's 4 of them. All 4 of them were Eagle Scouts. So it seems like, oh, there's going to be a lot of pressure on my kids. But no, actually, the scouts went and added girls and totally changed their way and became a completely different thing. And yeah, tell me how the picture actually looks, is if it's actually working. Because if I go to view stats, I'm not dropping any frames. I'm doing pretty good. This stream's probably low resolution, like 480p, but I'm not dropping any frames, so that's good. Um, back on the weave. I'm weaving. Uh, the story here is the kids are going to be doing trail life, which is people from the Boy Scouts went and started something that was basically the Boy Scouts, and the Boy Scouts went woke or like went their own way, and it's just like Boy Scouts was when I was a kid, except that they don't really have the structure that a Boy Scout troop has. That's been there for a while, and this is what we do every Memorial Day. We go here every September. We go here. This trail life troop we've joined started last year, and so they're building all of that right now, and it's pretty exciting, and it's a lot of fun for my son. And overall, we just go hiking and camping, and we're going to go camping this weekend, and being outside is generally good. So uh, we really started out with a lot of adventures. Um, I'm going to show you. Okay, am I going to show you? I can't. You see it? Ah, there we go. So these are all the places that we've been in my family. All the different places we've saved and been, and like obviously in between, you don't save stuff on Google Maps for everything that you do. But in our entryway of our home, if you walk in, you will see a poster. This scratch off poster, and it shows everywhere that my wife and I have been together, and kids have shown up along the way. But just to give you an overview of what we actually did, is we were here in Denver. We sold our home, and we traveled week by week at first with a trailer, which I think is the next picture. Here's us with a trailer. There's Caleb, 6 weeks old when we left. I sold both of our cars and bought an expedition and a trailer from a friend of mine. If you're ever in Denver, who I know the best salesman who sells trailers and RVs. We looked at tent trailers, we looked at RVs, we looked at all the different options and came down to this one. This was a bunkhouse with two bunk beds, one couch bed, and one queen bed right here, and it slept us all with the baby on what is called like a little bumper bed, called a DockATot, in between us on the queen bed. It was cozy. We sold it at the end of the trip. But what we did is we started in Colorado. We went over to Salt Lake City there for a week. Then we went to Boise for a week, uh, Portland area for a week, Seattle area for a week. On all these places that we went, the structure was that I worked Monday to Friday from an Airbnb that we found, usually Sunday night to check out Friday. Finish up on a Pacific time zone. You're finishing up your Friday work schedule, not super far off from when you're checking out. So you ask for a late checkout, and if you don't get it, you have to work somewhere else. And then on the weekends, we'd go camping. Uh, Beautiful lakes, beautiful places. So we're here. We left in June. Very important to know what time you're leaving. Got to the Seattle area around uh, second week of July. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Uh, I'll give you highlights and things at the end. Then we went all the way across the country, and then got here about my birthday, August 14th, in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and then we spent the next 6 weeks in Michigan. 4 weeks here, 1 week. I don't even remember what lake up here in the Lower Peninsula. 1 week in Grand Rapids. 2 weeks in Indianapolis with family in the fall for my wife's birthday. And then we went to Nashville, and then the Gulf Coast, Mississippi. Then we spent the 8 weeks starting early November through January in Florida. We went down the West Coast, down to Key West, 2 weeks in Marathon, and up the East Coast, finding ourselves in North Carolina for the month of January. After that, we were getting off the trip. Like we had sold our house in February, and we rented the house that we got off the trip on in February in Indiana. So the actual traveling was like slightly less than that. And there was a whole lot to learn from this. Now let me open up my notes and just check the chat. Say welcome. If you are interested, come to rumble.com/liberty tonight. Interact with me here. Ask me questions here. Um, there's so many things to learn and so many things I've never heard anyone talk about that I don't think I have to use again, but I'd love to give you as advice for like things that I learned. So if you have a house, you can decide to rent it out or you can decide to sell it. There's pluses and minuses for both. Wes says Kate loved being in the Girl Scouts, and then she went to Franny to join his troop and had to decide between the Mormons and a group that said that was entirely too young. The plight of New York City homeschooling isn't easy. Yeah, it's not easy in Kentucky either. Uh, Even church groups, everybody goes around the room saying they have problems with peer pressure, and they're like, well, my kid does not have problems with peer pressure at school. This is just not a thing here. It's because we homeschool, and you should too. So we decided to sell the house. Storage unit was the biggest one they had. Oh man, I don't have these all organized at the like a way to see where my storage. There's my storage unit. So you can see everything to the very brim that we wanted to keep. And if it didn't fit in there, it didn't come with us. And this is actually like a really uh, valuable experience to go through when you've lived somewhere a while is to just really hard truth. Do I really want to keep this or not? It has a cost. Yes, no. Give away, throw away, sell, or keep. And is it valuable? Is it small and valuable? Easy to put in the storage unit? Or is it big and not that valuable? Easy to replace? It's actually a fun exercise. I don't really want to do it again soon, but it was a good exercise. Storage units, $100 a month, easy thing to figure out. They will raise your rent on you. Like, I feel like it was 2 months after I left. I'm like, well, what am I going to do about this? It's just, it is what it is. They have my stuff. And that's their business, right? So get everything in there and then decide also what are you taking. That's like a dividing line of what goes in the stay, what goes in the go, what goes in the I'm taking it with me. Do you want to go with a trailer or an RV or just do Airbnbs or camp, like whatever, some third option, van life? The trailer offered us the opportunity to save money on the weekends, and overall, the experience with the trailer was in the parts of the country where it's beautiful and it's nice outside and you want to be outside and you want to go camping, it was wonderful to have. And there was a website called HipCamp, which is kind of like Airbnb for camping and RVs. There's national parks, which we didn't go to, national forests, Bureau of Land Management, lots of free places to stay. And then there's also just regular old campgrounds and KOAs. All of those types of experiences force your kids to be outside and play and meet other kids and have adventures versus in an Airbnb in some suburb. So the advantages are you save money on the weekends, your kids are forced to go outside on the weekends, and all this is really good for when it's good to be outside. And like it's summer in the Northwest or in the Upper Peninsula, and it's a benefit. It allows you to carry more stuff with you. You get a fridge to carry your food that you don't have to refill ice out of a cooler. So at the end of every week, when you have leftover groceries, you don't throw them away. They go in the fridge in the trailer. Uh, it was really nice. We ended up about 6 months in when we were going through the Midwest in Indiana. we decided to ditch it, and I dropped it off at a dealership, and they stored it for me for like $80 for 6 months. It was incredibly almost free. Uh, it was a deal of a lifetime. I never talked to them about it. I just like said, "Hey, can you leave it here to service it?" And then I said, "Hey, how long can I stay keep it there?" And they're like, "Yeah, pick it up whenever." So I just didn't call them again until I was ready to pick it up like 6 months later. So the whole from Indiana south to Florida and everything, we just did Airbnbs week to week to week to week, and then we ended up doing 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. So the advantages are nice to have an extra storage thing. It's nice to be able to go places on the weekends. The negatives are it limits to where you can stay because they have to be able to park it somewhere. It has to fit on a driveway or it has to fit somewhere. And it also limits you in terms of hauling it around and gas mileage if you aren't actually using it. So like when we were going through the Midwest, we decided to stop camping. It was added weight, but you don't ever have to do that. Like, people take RVs all the way to Key West. This is personal choice. It really doesn't matter. Mail and state income taxes. I actually found a website called Anytime Mailbox. They will scan your mail. They will mail you anything you want to wherever you are. So if a check shows up and you actually want to have, they will deposit a check for you, so you don't have to actually mail it to you. But say a passport shows up and you wanted to mail it somewhere, they'll do that for you. Basically removes the need to have a mailbox anywhere else. It makes it a service. At the same time, it gives you an address for things like credit cards, phone bills, and if you choose a state that has no income taxes, register as a resident there and say that that's where you live. I'm not saying that that's the best. I don't know. But there are 7 states with no income taxes. I would pick I would register my car and do my insurance and do everything at a mailbox on Anytime Mailbox that way and avoid. I guess if you work in like 40 different states, you might or might not owe 40 different income taxes. But if you're not a professional baseball player, yeah. Anyways, it's a beautiful solution to basically all of the problems that you're thinking of. Every time you're asked to give an address, everywhere you go, it gives you a response to add. Um, Prescription drugs, pick a national chain like Walmart or Walgreens that is literally everywhere, and the app allows you to change prescriptions out to like wherever you are, and it just is done in 5 minutes. You don't have to call your doctor and wait because like once Walmart pharmacy has your prescription, you just say I'm in this Walmart and move it, and it's ready in 10 minutes. So it's super easy to do. You can also do telehealth. Look ahead and any doctor's appointments that you need in the next year, go do it before you leave and look for alternatives for anything that you might want that are telehealth so that you can take the appointment from anywhere because you can go to LabCorp or Quest to get blood work done anywhere. And there are alternatives to having to show up to see a doctor. So even if you're managing something or you need antibiotics in the middle of the night, right? Like just figure out that solution ahead of time. In terms of budget, I was able to spend less money than I made every month, but that took a lot of forecasting and looking back and to keep taking a hold on what was the weekly budget. It's actually simpler to think about this. I'm just going to put a different thing on the screen. Or should I do solo? It is a little bit easier to think about it that like actually all your bills go away. Your water bill, your electric bill, your trash bill, everything that you have when you live somewhere is gone. It's all rolled into your Airbnb. So if you just take your current rent and you add in the cost of all the things that you're not going to pay anymore, that can be your monthly budget for Airbnb. Your remaining stuff stays, your basically your cell phone. You don't pay internet, like that goes into the rent. Um, Water bill goes into the rent, and it's all Airbnb, right? So Or you don't have to use Airbnb, that's a separate problem, but uh, remove all your bills down to basically the one place you're staying, your gas, which really varies by how far you're going, and if you don't go that far, it doesn't have to be that much. If you're going slowly, you're traveling around, that's a separate budget line issue. And remember the fact that in Seattle, it's the highest gas in the country because they don't have an income tax. Now they do, but they passed really high gas taxes. West Coast is really expensive. East Coast is really expensive. Middle of the country is pretty cheap. Consider all of that in your budget for traveling. Your car insurance, you could pick the state to register in that has no income tax and the lowest car insurance. South Dakota might be the answer. Maine, I don't know. That's like ask Rock type of question. And then don't eat out. So if you say I still am gonna live my normal life where I buy groceries like I normally do, I buy local, I eat all week, pack lunches. I'm not saying we never ate out, but we did not eat out very much at all. It was mostly make your own food. And sometimes when we ate out, it was like get 20 nuggets at McDonald's all at once and just tell the kids to share them all for $10. So we never really like that we're giving up everything to be able to have an experience of a lifetime to travel to wherever we want to go. So consider that. Camp on the weekends. Consider your rent's actually free 2 days a week or $50 a day, 2 days a week, and then whatever your remaining rent is. If you were to follow my plan, like there's so many ways to save, right? There's so many ways. You find an Airbnb that's like $50 a night. Like there's so many of those. Or you can go big, and you can also look forward and say, I'm going to really scrimp for like all these places, but then when I get to Key West or LA or Florida, the expensive places, those are going to be really expensive months. And so you move the money from like say, oh, in October we're going to spend less, and in November we'll be here and we'll spend more, and you balance it across the year to make it even out. And then route planning. So ask me if you have any questions about the budgets, anything like that. But route planning really, really matters. Let's go back. How did we figure out where did we want to go? General rule, the North, Maine, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and Washington and northern panhandle of Idaho are really nice. July, August, September, some June, right? And depends on the spot specifically. The South is nice in the winter. Everybody gets that. So how do you just like we were here all summer and we were here all winter. The reason why we didn't go to the Southwest on this trip is we had already been there. I grew up in LA area, and so we had seen it. And we've done trips to Texas, so we had seen it. So I want you to know that I just want to think about my what I'm going to say, but ignore the politics. No, focus on what you actually want to see in the country. We never really went to any cities. We drove through some sometimes, but we never stayed in really any of the blue cities, any of the big cities ever. We were always there to see nature or see people. Plenty of times we went to see people, and that's a separate subject I'll touch on in a minute. But when we focused on places, if it wasn't around people, it was around the geography. So I want you to know that Washington State's one of the most beautiful places, and Oregon is one of the most beautiful places in the whole world in the summer. It's why people stay there through the winter, is because they know how wonderful it is in the summer. And the sun goes down at 10 p.m. Beautiful waters, beautiful mountains, beautiful everything. I would not miss that. I'm very happy I went on that on the trip. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho's right here in the Panhandle. One of the best places I ever went. Blew my expectations away. I had like, oh, this should be nice. And it was like 11 out of 10, 11 out of 10, 11 out of 10. I would never miss it. It was one of the best places in the whole western part of this whole country. I'd put it at one of the top places. And then all this is beautiful and also really big. So when you say Montana, Wyoming, all of Idaho, you just don't have enough time. You could spend the whole year going through there. So what you do is you set your goals of the places you want to go and say, oh, I only have so much time in a summer or how much time to do this trip. And then you time out the spots in between. You say, bookend this. This is going to be a one we did 1 week at a time every place, and it was very constant travel, always packing up, always camping, always packing up, always camping until we got here and got a 4 week break. And it was very hard to keep up that pace that whole first stretch. And at the end of that first stretch, we were very burnt out. Of every single week, you have no more than 4 days in one place, or five days in one place. Just and 1 week, we actually moved in the middle of the week on a Wednesday. We drove from uh, western South Dakota to eastern South Dakota. We went from Black Hills to Sioux Falls. Spent half a week just to get across the country because you have to make a lot of ground up. It's just and how much time you have in a year. You actually run out of time pretty quick. So if I could have done like 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there, 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there, in the better places and less of the weeks in the smaller towns, like I didn't need to spend any time really in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Uh, Probably would have enjoyed the trip more in the first phase. Um, that just wasn't the strategy. So with a bunch of kids, with 4 kids and a baby, it's hard to go on long road trips. And so the long road trips became the hardest parts. And when you just have to do miles and get miles, it kind of takes away from the trip. So the slower you can actually spend, the more time you can spend in the places you want to be, the better your trip's going to be. And then the Upper Peninsula of Michigan is the best place on the whole East Coast. East of the Mississippi River, probably okay, east of the Rocky Mountains, it's the best place in the country. It's so wonderful. There's nobody there. These are reasons why I think it's the best. Think crystal clear blue water with no seaweed and nasty mosses and algae, just like crystal clear. Warm water, and like at least Lake Michigan and Huron at the northern parts. Crystal clear, white sandy beaches, 80-degree air, and sunny and nice, and no one there. All the people are in Florida in 110 in a crummy beach. I don't know why they go there in the summer, but uh, it's just the best. And it's not seawater, it's fresh water. You see like these giant ocean-going vessels, but they're in a lake. And then just everything about it is wonderful. I love it's huge. You could spend I've spent I don't know 6 or 7 weeks of my life there now, and I could spend 20 more weeks before I even have seen it all. There's so much there. You can't see it all. You could do the whole summer there and not see it all. And it wouldn't be a bad way to spend your summer. Like there's something called the Apostle Islands here in northern Wisconsin. I haven't been there. There's this Land of a Thousand Lakes wilderness area. I'm not remembering the name right, but this huge area of thousands of lakes. I want to do a canoe trip there in northern Minnesota. Haven't been there. There's this island, Isle Royale, that you have to fly to. It's a national park island on the Lake Superior. That's a beautiful place. Never been to any of that. All that to say is there's a reason why we took a break at the end of the summer there, and it was the best part of the trip for me. Maybe not for everybody. Maybe I'm not just gonna speak for them. Um, then going through the Midwest, man, for what I wanted to do, it's just the nature of the Midwest is. I live in the Midwest. I live right here in Louisville now. It's not all awe-inspiring, right? It's not you wake up every morning and think, I can't believe that I'm getting paid to be here. This is incredible. This is like I'm beyond blessed. There's nothing wrong with Midwest. I live here. It's affordable, and I have a beautiful park that I go hiking in nearby. And went there several times last week. I'm not saying there's no nature, there's no camping. I'm not saying there's not. I'm just comparing it on a curve against everything else in this country. And so we went through Nashville. This was Halloween. Nashville's a beautiful place, but we stayed an hour outside of Nashville in the country on a couple acre plot Airbnb for cheap, affordable compared to anything in Nashville. So like when I say a large city, we don't actually stay in those large cities. But people everywhere. One of the things I found, every single place in this country, every small town, is dominated by one company, and that is Dollar General. You don't see them in any major metro because they don't compete at all for any major metro, but every small rural place in the whole country is dominated by Dollar General. If you are a small town of a couple thousand people, you will get a Dollar General, and then you will get a storage unit facility. Then, if you're big enough, McDonald's comes in, and a gas stations there too. But the Dollar General just freaking dominates this country all over every single state, just in rural parts of everywhere. Sorry for that side note. Um, we hit the places that we wanted to hit. The trip originally envisioned doing this northeastern trip all at once, and we were just too burnt out, and so we took a. So here's let me just finish up the story of our trip, and then I'll go through the next things that you're gonna want to do. So Gulfport, Mississippi. Gulfport, Mississippi, is everybody would give it like a 3 out of 10 in expectations, and it's like an 8 out of 10 place. It's really family friendly place. It's really nice, really great weather in November. Everyone goes there in the summer. Once again, I don't know. I wouldn't do that. Uh, so many family attractions, family parks. It's unbelievably visitor and tourist based, but like really nice. It's really nice, and I had very low expectations for it, so it blew them away. Like the Southern White House there is Jefferson Davis, the Confederate president. His White House is there. You can go tour it, and they have Confederate memorabilia, and it's just a tremendous place. It feels like Vegas, but family friendly because there's casinos there. Going through Florida, I've seen pretty much everywhere in Florida, and the Panhandle and Destin is nice, but not that nice. And it's where everybody in the whole Mississippi Basin goes because it's the closest beach. Even for me, it's technically the closest beach, and it's not a terrible place. It's just not one of my top places in Florida. We went to Orlando, went to SeaWorld. We spent like 2 weeks in Orlando. Great family place. We didn't go to Disneyland because I'm not a billionaire, and I wish I was, but I'm not sure I would go to Disneyland even if I was a billionaire. Uh, then we went down to Clearwater, and this here. Okay, so here's Cape Coral. Here's Sarasota. Right here is Venice. This is where we stayed for 2 weeks. That's my favorite place in Florida. And it's my favorite place because it is one of the only places that is slow and chill out, like not too many people, and it's the right vibe. Oh, look at that picture. I don't even know what that is. But you can collect shark teeth, like fossilized shark teeth, and it's a great beach. It is the perfect amount of people. It is the best place of all the places. Um, I liked it. I liked it better than I've been to the beaches in Clearwater and St. Petersburg. The water's clear, it's nice, and it's not crowded. It's just pleasant. Now, Fort Myers is very rich and also very nice, just way richer, and so is Naples. Then we went down to Key West. So if you're going to stay in Key West, or sorry, the Keys, you're going to stay in the Keys. There's lots of options, so many options, right? Key West feels like a very, very, very trashy island in the Caribbean that tour like cruise ships stop at Key West, and there are alcoholic drinks for $20. It's like a tropical, expensive island version of Vegas, or some kind of other trashy place. Really, the worst key to stay on for me with a family. Uh, Many of these small ones are perfectly fine for if you can find a place. If you just want to sit on the beach and enjoy a really nice, like you're there for the nature. You want to go fishing. You want to do the nature. We stayed on Marathon, which is right here, on the Key Colony, which is actually its own city. And all of these rows have their own docks. So our Airbnb has had its own dock. We didn't have a boat, but we actually were there for the Christmas boat parade and Christmas, and it was a really cool place to be for Christmas. And it was pouring rain sideways, like it was some kind of tropical storm, but we still went out and did stuff, uh, including swimming with the dolphins. That was the most expensive 2 weeks of anywhere I stayed, and we stayed in the cheapest place you could stay. There's not a cheap place to stay on the Keys. And then we went up the East Coast. So um, in Savannah's a really nice old town, beautiful place. Charleston, the nice spots are all near the water, and the bad spots are all away from the water. And we stayed in Mount Pleasant, and it was so nice, so beautiful, perfect place to stay. Went to Fort Sumter, and I want to say that this was the most disappointed I was of anything on the whole trip because nothing there is original. Here's a good picture. You go there thinking, oh, there's Civil War history. This is where the first shots of the Civil War were fired. I'm so excited for all this. But there's nothing. Like this is all uh, a waste of time. This is physically where it happened, but see this big black box? This is from the 1890s during the Spanish American War. They built this and it was really like a naval station guarding the port of Charleston from the Spanish. And so they demolished all the history, and there's literally nothing original there. Everything there has been brought in to make it an expensive museum that you take a boat. And we came up to Charlotte and stayed in the surrounding areas. They have this giant zoo out here that is the largest zoo by area in the country. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Then after we, how do you get off the trip? Let me just go through the planning. So, what we bring? Every person got one suitcase. I brought a box of tools in case things broke down, hair clippers, so we don't have to pay for haircuts, my work backpack, legal documents. What do you do with all your documents? Passports, birth certificates, marriage certificates. I bought a little gun safe and kept it in my car. So I had literally all of our important documents locked in the car at all times. And then we brought a blow up paddleboard. It was absolutely a good decision for me. I never go back and change things. Perfect, perfect thing to bring with you. Small, fits in everything. Everybody got a sweatshirt and a rain jacket. Nothing. We didn't bring anything heavy. Here's a rule: if you can get it at a Walmart in the middle of nowhere and you're not sure if you need to bring it, you don't bring it. If it's a thing that you're like, I don't know how I'm gonna need it, but I can get it wherever I'm going, then you don't bring it and you pick it up if you need it. Um, there's storage unit. I'm just gonna close that. Don't need to look at that. Okay, here we go. When we ditched the trailer, we moved over to a trailer hitch with 2 containers and a cooler because now you need to carry your food between every week. And then we got a rooftop carrier that held everyone's suitcases. Um, it was still packed to the brim. But these are sold at Lowe's, and I'm sure Home Depot and everyone's got a version of these. They're waterproof and sealed, and they were awesome. We had a shoe box so that everybody's extra shoes were all in one box, and then when you walk in the door or leave at the Airbnb, you have the shoe box in there so that you can keep track of everyone's shoes at all times, which when you have 4 kids, it's a thing. The other one we had was a kitchen box. So when you stare at an Airbnb, they might only have one detergent for your laundry, one detergent for your dishwasher, trash bags, one trash bag. Uh, they don't have salts. They don't have a frying pan. They don't have a way to make tea. Like you don't know what they're gonna have, and so kitchen box is something that is universal. These are the things that we have to have. So we'd have like a pot for tea and trash bags and dishwasher and all your spices that you cook with and basically everything that you want to have from place to place, separate from even grocery, separate from groceries. So if like there's extra space, you can put like food in there. Otherwise, food just went um, on its own, like wherever it fit. Yeah, community. The other thing to do is think about like you're going to be with the same people all the time and you won't be able to go do other things, socialize, go to church, see people. You need to fit that in as part of the plan. You need to look at the map and see who do I know? Where do they live? How do I fit them into the trip so that I can see my cousin here, my sister there, my friend from college this other place? And find some like during the week, during the plan, like you're creating new routines. How do you fit alone time in? How do you fit time for, walking and talking on the phone to your mom and dad or just your daughters, whoever's in your life? All those things need to be thought about because you're not going to have your regular community to rely on. So you have to build it into the plan as much as you can so that you don't go crazy. And then looking back, like I took a lot of photos. I mean, thousands. But if I could go back, I would get a nice camera and a video, and I'd video everything. And I would, because when you're on a vacation, it's easy to remember that you're going to take pictures of memories the rest of your life, and you do it all the time because you're on that vacation. But when it's your life, like this is your Marquette in Upper Peninsula, Michigan. That water is like 40 something degrees, even though it's summer, because Lake Superior is very cold. There's my daughter jumping 20 feet. It was really scary. Good job, Quinn. I would go get a nice camera, and even if you're gonna do a private YouTube channel, do a private one. That's fine, but at least do something to record it for posterity's sake. Here's the Porcupine Mountains in the UP. Also the UP. Here's Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and that's Lake Coeur d'Alene. Um, I want to touch on finances. Here's also Coeur d'Alene. Okay, so the other thing you should consider is how do you manage everything and what is the best card for you? And those offers change all the time. What we got was the Amex uh, Platinum card, which came with a ton of bonus points and gold status for Marriott, all sorts of benefits. And I think it was probably the best one that was available at the time. It's like $600 a year if you don't cancel, but if you cancel at the 11 months, you don't pay the, you don't have to renew. So if you cancel before 11 months, you have to pay them back for all the points they gave you. And if you cancel at 11 months, you owe them nothing. Um, in the end, it paid for about 2 weeks worth of our entire trip. So a couple $1,000, but I was able to put all of our rent for the entire year on it. And the reason why we did Airbnb is VRBO doesn't take Amex, and that's not a deal breaker if you had a visa. If you switch it up between VRBO and Airbnb, now you have to remember your reservations. Go look in an email and figure out every week where things are supposed to be. It's simple to say, this is my card, this is Airbnb, this is what we do everything on, and all my trips are in there. And if you look at my profile, does it tell me about me? I've been on 32 trips, and many of them were in 2025. I didn't finish up the story that we got a rental in Columbus, Indiana, and it was on the same street as my wife's sister and her family, so my kids' cousins. And we were in Nashville and driving up north, and we didn't tell them that we were moving in anywhere. They just thought they were on to the next place. Like we get in the car and we drive to the next place. I flew to Colorado, loaded up everything from the storage unit into a one-way uh, moving truck, and actually sprained both of my wrists falling on ice. When I was in, like, I just finished loading it up and I was coming down the ramp and I slipped and fell from like 4 feet up. And so I got to drive with swollen wrists. That really hurt. Um, all the way across the country. And my kids got to come to this new rental, and the cousins were told they were going to go over and meet the new neighbors. And so they found out together that, oh, we're going to live here. And so for a year, I lived on the same street as my niece and nephew, and the cousins were able to see each other every day. And during that year, that summer trip, we did the Northeast. And when we were looking at how many states we had been to, we realized that we were like one trip away from being at 48. So the next summer, we did the remaining part of the trip, and we did a 3 week trip going up to Montreal, down through the East Coast, and we spent a week in Massachusetts, a week in Maine, and a week in Montreal. So it was a 3 week trip where I was able to work while we traveled as well. That finished up the whole. We'd been at 48 states at the end of that. Um, but yeah, I would definitely do this trip again. It was a trip of a lifetime. Here's Maine. We met my father and we met both my parents and my wife's parents in different places and said, "Hey, we're on this trip." We met my wife's parents in Oregon. We met my parents in Maine and Florida. We met them in Florida too. So planning with people who say, "Where's some place that you would like to go on vacation?" We'll be there. Go there and plan with them as well. And so be like, talk your friends into coming to see you in places that you want to go. This is in Canada, just north of Vermont. This is in Montreal. This is Lake Maggie, just west of Seattle, and that was one of the most beautiful, clear lakes I've ever seen. This is like my ideal day. Like I would do this day 100 million times in a row if I could do that day every day. Like just go to the lake with my kids. Here's us in Montana. This is the Lower Peninsula of Michigan. Always outside, always going to places with lakes or mountains or streams or someplace with nature. And oh, Airbnb advice. This is true probably for anywhere, but like VRBOs would be the same. Well, let me just walk you through how you do this. So you don't want to schedule too far out because you are on a trip that's flexible. So on the really important places, like Michigan for a month, go ahead and book it 4 months out and find a place that doesn't charge you until the last week and book it, right? But you want to stay more flexible because your opinions are going to change of where you would like to go, or things might come up. And there's no reason to say I can't go because I have to be in an Airbnb in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, to some event that's like it's in Minneapolis, right? So Airbnbs get cheaper as time gets closer. So if you're not competing against everybody for some kind of event in a city, and you can be in different cities, then the week before, cheapest time to book, because everybody who's still not booked is, somebody's a really good host and it's empty, and they're going to be free. Okay, so let's just say Nashville for a week. Want to do the number of guests and children. If you put infants, it's gonna it's gonna search for places that have like specific places like cribs. And we never used cribs. We used like a docket top between the two of us on our king bed. So we never clicked infants, and we didn't have a pet. But on the filters here, you go straight to your budget and you narrow it down to like exactly what you want. You want the entire home. It, there's a lot of hidden Airbnbs that have two addresses for Airbnbs where they have like somebody in the garage as a separate unit, like a studio unit. And you do not want to share. And so you will have to look very carefully at all the text to make sure that there's nothing like that, because it's super annoying. It's incredibly annoying. So for things that matter, like you just have a filter that you do every time. I want a washer. I don't care about how many bedrooms, if it's two or five, but I do care how many beds, do care how many bathrooms, washer, dryer. Don't care about those things. Guest favorite. You can go. I've stayed with plenty of people who I was like their first person to stay. But if you don't have a lot of listings on Airbnb and you're pretty new, you don't know how to manage people. You don't know how to prepare for them. You don't know how to deal with whatever issues. Like, uh, my kid breaks something in your house. It's gonna happen. But you don't know how to deal with somebody whose kid broke your thing, and you come out all angry and you're texting and you want to fight with them. Airbnb is actually really great at mediating any kind of dispute. I didn't get into too many of those, but when I did, it was with people who had only been in Airbnb for a few minutes. When somebody had been a top rated guest, they were fantastic about those kind of things. And it made me feel like, oh yeah, this is just like, this is a thing. Here, $75. Deal. Okay, move on with life. Um, I had one lady get very upset about missing bath towels, and apparently we had washed them and dried them and put them in the wrong drawer. Things like that you can avoid. You get cheaper stuff if you don't do guest favorite. You can also just search by review when you're actually looking, but there's nothing tricky about it. The next step is you're looking at a map to actually look at, you're saying, oh, this looks nice. I might really like this. Everything about this looks nice. But is it a nice neighborhood? There's a place called communitycrimemap.com. You just zoom in on the neighborhood and find out if that that neighborhood is safe or not. It's super straightforward. You can also do Google Maps Street View and get everything you want to know. It's super, super simple to say Google Maps Street View, crime map, and then look at the deals. So 12 reviews, that's decent enough to know that they did a great job. Um, where you'll sleep, you want to look at the bedrooms. People do crazy things with the pictures where it looks like separate bedrooms, and then you get in there and you're like, I didn't realize that this bedroom was by itself in a basement, and this one is in an attic, and this one doesn't have AC, and it's a million degrees out. And like, there's weird stuff. So you need to look carefully at the pictures in the bedrooms, and then read the fine print. Besides that, you can always message these people and ask for specific requests when you're about to charge. Uh, like refundable, yes. Non-refundable, no. If you stay for a full 7 days, you get a discount most places, and that can often mean that it's cheaper to stay 7 days than it is to stay 5, which is weird. That's the way life is. And I think that's all that I had. Does anyone else have any questions? I've always tried to integrate my Twitter friends into my travels. 48 only met on Twitter friends, and I've met in real life so far. It's so worth it. That's awesome, Quest. Yeah, I think some of my best friends I've met on the internet, and there's nothing wrong about that. I now see you, Brian. Okay, that was a long time ago. Through Airbnb. You build up a good profile on Airbnb and people will accept you. That's the other reason not to switch between Airbnb and VRBO and whatever alternatives there are. If you're highly rated and you've stayed someplace a lot, um, they have good payment terms for paying. You can't pay 6 months rent all at once. Maybe you can. If you sell the house, easy. If you are renting out the house, cash cash management, you have to pay attention to it regularly. You also need to look backwards at the last month and see how you're actually doing on the budget, and see if you're doing well or not. Like, did you hit it or not? Um, One of the last things to do is homeschool. And I have any more pictures. Perfect for homeschooling. Here's us walking through Boston. The thing about if you're going to travel and you're only going to do it for a limited amount of time, homeschooling needs to also include the education that you're going to provide in the places. So, why be in Boston and then read a book about Boston? Go to the museum in Boston. Go see the art. Go see the history about our country. Um, Stop thinking about what I have to teach them today and think, what can I teach them where I'm at today? So that you can integrate the places you're at into their education. These are things that they'll remember the rest of their life. So also consider the plan of where you go on the trip to be what you teach them for homeschooling on the trip. And the other reason we started in June is that we finished up our school year before we started, and then we didn't have any school for the first, 3 months of the trip, which is great. And when we stopped for a month in Michigan, we also started school, and that gave us kind of an anchor point for the trip to say, we are taking a pause, we're starting school, we're getting into a new routine before we continue to travel. Like, okay, yes, we're doing nature stuff and camping, but we can also learn about history. We can also see the country, um, and use this to teach homeschool. And then the other thing you can remember is that even if you're driving, you can still be doing worksheets. You can still listen to an audiobook or read aloud, and you can still do teaching while driving. So they don't have to be given tablets and watch movies. You can give them an education while you travel. So homeschooling can happen on the road as much as anywhere else. And it's the perfect combo. The other thing is um, which state you decide to live in. Decide to live in. Texas has really good homeschool laws and no income tax, and that's the combination that allowed us to say that's where we're going to live with Anytime Mailbox. Is because you don't have to report to anybody that you're homeschooling. You don't have to take any tests. You don't have to report them. You're not out of compliance with anybody. So if you are living in Texas and you're homeschooling, you're not paying any state income tax, and you can be traveling in the middle of October and nobody is in trouble, right? So that's the freedom. That's the combination that you. Okay, that is everything that I had to cover for how do you go traveling for a year, and the summary of my experience, if I can put it all into a paragraph, is if you want to do it, you should go for it. You should get the remote job or save up the money. You should set out the budget and the goals and the plans and put plans on hold for your kids' sports, your kids' friends, your social calendar. You should go for it. You could try it out for a week or a month, or you make big decisions, or you could set a more limited time for the whole trip. Rent out your house on furnishfinder.com for short-term rentals, furnished rentals. You don't have to get rid of any of your stuff or put it in a storage unit. You could rent it out fully furnished to like a nurse, um, and go on like a 3-month trip or a 6-month trip, or just leave it empty. There are also programs to exchange homes. There's websites to exchange homes so that you can trade houses with different people that live different places. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. And travel is not the most important thing in the world. But if you want to do this, you absolutely can and you absolutely should. This is the world and the time to go do it. So I encourage you to, and if you have any questions about literally any place that you see scratched off on this map, message me on Twitter. Here's my X account. Follow me right there. I'm on part of the Ford Liberty Network, and you can get things like this shirt, these shoes at thefordlibertyshop.com. And I don't think I'll ever do a show quite like this again, but I really wanted to get it out of me and just share it with everybody who would like to know it, because it was a life-changing trip for me. It grew me as a person, grew me in terms of skill, financially, the ability to multitask, uh, challenging what I thought was possible and what I could actually do, built resilience in many different levels as far as what I'm capable of figuring out and doing and eliminate. Like at this point, I could get out onto the road not knowing where I'm going and have a place scheduled and have planned for I can figure it out on the fly. I don't have to have it scheduled out for 3 months. So that's something I learned by doing. And you can too. And if you're curious or afraid about anything, message me. Message me at forlibertynetwork.com, which is our Discord. I have my own channel for Liberty Tonight. And I see that there are several people watching, but I don't see any more recent questions. So I think that's got to be close to the end of the evening. I appreciate everybody for sticking around and watching. And yeah, until next time, we'll see you next week, 7